Erev Tov Rabotai, we are continuing with our Mishna Yomi Masechet Eduyot. We are up to Perek Zayin Mishnah Dalid. Today's Mishnayot should be Le'ilu Nishmat Neria ben Svetlana Ranbai Eliyahu ben Burcha Israelov Chana Bad Miriam Sason ben Ryan Yehoshua ben Shifra Menuchatam Began Eden Amen and Leavdil ben Chaim Lechaim v'derefua shelemav Daniel Shalom ben Rosa Betor Shah Cholei Yisrael and Dachlama Merav Binyamin Od Zion Chai ben Dvorah. The next testimony is also by Rabbi Tzadok and is also about spring water. The law is that if spring water flows through or over a vessel, it is no longer treated as spring water, even though it is still connected to the spring. This is in Mikvaot chapter 5, Mishnah 1. Rabbi Tzadok teaches that a certain item is not considered a vessel in this regard. He'id Rabbi Tzadok al zochalin shekilechan ba'alei egoz. Rabbi Tzadok testified regarding the flowing water of a spring that someone channeled by making a pass over a walnut leaf, the soft green outer shell of a walnut. Someone took the soft green shell of a walnut and put it into a stream of spring water, causing the water to flow upward over the shell. Shen ksherim, that it is fit to be used for purposes that require spring water, because a walnut leaf is not considered to be a vessel. Although the shell can contain things, it is not considered a vessel because it is soft and flimsy. The Mishnah records an incident where this ruling was applied. Ba'ahalia, there was an incident in Ahalia in which spring water was passed over a walnut leaf. And the matter was brought before the judges of the great Sanhedrin, which sat in the chamber of hewn stone, which was a room located next to the temple courtyard, and they deemed the water fit for use as spring water. And that is the end of Mishnah Dalid. Mishnah A begins with a dispute about the ashes of a parah aduma that are inside an earthenware vessel. We have learned that an earthenware vessel becomes tameh only if tumah goes inside the vessel and not if tumah touches the outside. Therefore, if something is inside an earthenware vessel and tumah touches the outside of the vessel, neither the vessel nor the item inside become tameh. The Mishnah discusses whether this rule applies when the ashes of a parah aduma are inside an earthenware jug. He'id Rabbi Yoshua ve'Rabbi Yakim ish Hadar. Rabbi Yoshua and Rabbi Yakim, leader of the town of Hadar, testified al kalal shel chatat shenitano al gabei hasheretz, regarding an earthenware jug that contains ashes of a chatat parah aduma. The Torah in Bamidbar chapter 19 verse 9 refers to a parah aduma as a chatat. So regarding an earthenware jug that contains ashes of a parah aduma that someone placed on a dead sheretz, one of the 8 species of creeping creatures that transmit tumah when dead, shu tameh, that the ashes are tameh, although the sheretz touched only the outside of the jug and therefore the jug itself remained tahor, the ashes became tameh because they were in a place of tumah. The Torah states there in Bamidbar chapter 19 verse 9, and a pure person shall gather the ashes of the parah aduma and put them in a pure place. By stating that the ashes must be kept in a pure place, the verse implies that if they were in an impure place, they would become tameh and unfit for use. Rabbi Yoshua and Rabbi Yakim hold that in the case discussed here, where the ashes are inside an earthenware vessel that is on top of a sheretz, they are in an impure place. They therefore become tameh, even though the jug itself remains tahor. And therefore it was necessary for Rabbi Yoshua and Rabbi Yakim to testify this law. Rabbi Eliezer mitaer, because Rabbi Eliezer rules that the ashes are tahor since the jug itself is tahor. Rabbi Eliezer holds that the place of the ashes is the jug. Therefore, since the jug itself is tahor, the place of the ashes is pure, and the same dispute appears in Mishnah Parah chapter 10, Mishnah 11. And the Rab tells us, Rabbi Eliezer, the halakha does not follow the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer. The next part of the Mishnah concerns a Nazir. This is a person who took the vow of Nezirut, which prohibits one to drink wine or any part of a grape, cut his hair, or become tameh from a corpse. When his term of Nezirut ends, he must shave his head and bring certain offerings. If a person accepts Nezirut upon himself without saying for how long, he must observe the laws of Nezirut for 30 days. Preferably, he then shaves his head on the 31st day. However, if he shaved on the 30th day, he has fulfilled his obligation, even though his Nezirut ends at that point before the end of the day. This is because of the rule, Miktsat Hayom Kekulo, part of a day is like an entire day. Since he was a Nazir for part of the 30th day, it is as though he was a Nazir for the entire 30th day. The following testimony, which also appears in Nazir chapter 3, Mishnah 2, is about someone who vowed to observe 2 terms of Nezirut, and he did not specify the length of each term. For example, he said, Harei alai shtei Nezirut, I hereby accept upon myself 2 terms of Nezirut, in which case he must observe 2 consecutive 30-day terms and shave his head after each term. He'id Rabbi Papias al Misha Nazar Shte Nizirot. Rabbi Papias testified about someone who vowed to observe 2 terms of Nizirut without specifying how long each term would last. Shim Gilachet Arishona Yom Shloshim. That if he shaved, whenever the Mishnah mentions shaving, it refers to the entire concluding procedure, shaving and bringing the 3 Nazir offerings. If he shaved for the conclusion of the first term on the 30th day, the second term of the Nizirut starts in the middle of the day, immediately after his shaving ritual, just like any term of Nizirut, which starts in the middle of the day as soon as one accepts it upon himself. The rest of the day counts as the first full day. So if he shaved for the conclusion of the first term on the 30th day, he should shave for the conclusion of the second term on the 60th day, which is the 31st day of the second term. And that if he shaved on the 59th day, literally the 60th day minus 1 day, which is the 30th day of the second term, he has fulfilled his obligation, because the 30th day counts for him twice in the number of days he must observe, meaning it counts both as the last day of the first term of the Zirut and as the first day of the second term. Therefore, the second term of the Zirut started on the 30th day and ended on the 59th. Preferably, he should shave the next day, the 60th, but if he shaved that day, the 59th, he has fulfilled his duty. And that is the Rabotai of today's Mishna Yomi. Baruch Adonai Leolam. Amen v'amen.